Today, the presentation is Emboldening Agency for a Healthy Learning Community. I kept it as simple and as close to my heart as possible, and tried to talk about things that I know a lot about through reading and lived experience. And but I want to be participatory. So if you have comments or questions or things pop up, just raise your hand or speak out, and we can talk about it. I'll talk about myself in a second. So just some key terms. Emboldening agency for a healthy learning community is sort of one of those phrases that everyone can draw their own idea of what it means. But I find it's nice to sort of define what I'm talking about. So the word embolden has gone through a number of iterations in my life. So it was enhance, and then it was what's the other one? Enable, right? And embolden is the one that I like the most because I'm going to talk about my background in a little bit. But embolden is the idea that it's more support than it is like the person needs you to do what they're trying to do. It's more just you're like heightening the practice. And so Spark Connect, it's support to build confidence and clarity of the person. Agency is what I've spent the most time thinking about and talking about and writing about for the last 8 years. It is my line of research and what I like to think about, and it's been used in a number of presentations today. The keynote, just last presentation, talked about social agency in students. And so it's a term that I think is super powerful and under used and written about. And because it's applicable to all contexts, I like to talk about it. And so the way I define agency is action for beneficial change in self, students, and community. There's a lot to unpack in that definition. So action is both perception and action. So hypothetically, if you have something at work that that you feel needs to be changed to benefit yourself or your students or the greater good, then it starts with a thought, right? I think that this needs to happen. And then agency is the action piece. How likely are you to actually do something about it? And then this is more of a teacher agency concept because I come from the K-12 teaching world, and that's why students are a big part of this definition as well as community. So beneficial change is another part that you need to unpack. People can have agency and use their agency for not beneficial change, depending on your politics or your what you feel is the right way to change. And so beneficial is a big part of that definition that came along. And then self first, that's the idea of put on your oxygen mask first, and then students and community. So it's all geared towards helping. And then a healthy community. This is from the book All About Love by Bell Hooks. It's been my favorite use of community. I think it's a really powerful passage from that book. And it says, a healthy community is a coming together of a group of individuals who have learned to communicate honestly with each other, whose relationships go deeper than their masks of composure, and who have developed some significant commitment to rejoice together, mourn together, and to delight in each other and make others' conditions our own. So the classroom community is a place where you want learning to happen. And in order to do that, it needs to be healthy. It needs to be a healthy learning community. so that students feel okay to be themselves. Questions or comments? Cool. So my personal connection to agency is and teaching is I was a school teacher for 7 years in Hillsborough County in Florida, which was the 8th biggest school district. So it was comparable to Clark County here. And over the course of the 7 years, I started to like grow and practice and get better, but I didn't have a lot of the theoretical underpinnings of education figured out. I didn't know why I was doing the stuff that I was doing. It just was like gut feel. And so I went back to, there was a specific instance where I was working with new teachers, and a new teacher was having a particularly hard moment and texted me to that they needed my support. And I went over, and it was their turn on the playground, and there was another class out on the playground. And this teacher didn't know what to do in that instance. They didn't have strategies to figure out, you know, and I personally saw 1,000 things that we could do in this situation, but this one teacher was not prepared to make a decision. And so that to me said I needed to read more and I needed to learn more. And that's why I went to grad school at UNLV in 2015. And over that time, I looked at, I tried to define what I was looking for to embolden teachers to be themselves and to be able to focus on kids. And I went through teacher leadership and school culture and teacher efficacy and all these things. And agency really defines it best for me. It's what I feel, we need to do to prepare teachers so that they stay. Did anyone want to share their relationship to agency or teaching, or why you came to this session? You don't have to.
Sound like their first thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm not a teacher. I work with the data analyst in the advising program here at CSN. And I would say one thing that we have been trying to figure out is how to empower our students and embolden students to add the agency over their courses. So we give them board recommendations if we think that's the best thing for them, but then for them to also kind of take ownership and kind of take agency of that decision to run that course and to complete that degree. So I'm here hoping to kind of understand how you do it in the classroom, because if it's effective in the classroom, I'm hoping it's effective.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I do provide some strategies, so I hope they're applicable. Let's anyone else? All right, let's keep going. So this is just a quick slide on what I perceive as a big problem in education, and whether you're in K-12 as a teacher, you could also be a student or a parent or an admin or a community member. So you don't have to be a teacher to see this as something that influences your community. So whether you live in Clark County or not, Clark County is an interesting case study on what they call the teacher shortage. And so at any given moment, we have about 20,000 teachers in Clark County for 330,000+ kids. And we're about, anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 teachers short at any given moment currently. Anyone with a bachelor's degree could walk into teaching on Monday if you want. And so before the pandemic, 1 in 6 teachers, I didn't put all my sources in here, but I have a full list of sources, so you can email me after if you want the sources. 1 in 6 teachers are likely to leave the profession since the pandemic. 1 in 4, 1 in 2 teachers of color, 70 to 85% have considered or are currently thinking about leaving teaching. And so teachers leaving the profession or transition out of schools, children are negatively impacted. That's research-based. While it makes sense, often our most vulnerable populations suffer the most. Teacher turnover is 50% higher in Title I, which serve lower income students. Turnover rates are 70% higher for teachers serving the largest concentrations of students of color. And when teachers leave the profession, there is negative impact on student achievement. So you hear anecdotal stories about this problem all the time. And so I think that's my next slide. So this is what I'm doing, right? I teach 4 classes a semester. I have 60 to 110 students a semester, people who want to be teachers. And so this is sort of my like North Star, right? Is how do I prepare teachers right now so that when they leave and they stay for years and years and years and years and years. And so it's a difficult question, but like, I guess the spoiler is embolden agency is my answer. It's what I try to do in every single class that I teach. But this is what drives my work. There's this disconnect between theory and practice, right? So they're in my class and we're talking and we're having a great time. But as soon as they leave, they go into the schools, they're experiencing and seeing and doing things different than maybe what we talked about. So this is the duality of structure. This is a sociological concept where this is a healthy social system. So I talked about a healthy learning community. So this is the example of a healthy learning community. So a structure influences the individuals, both creating and constraining human action. So that's this one. So structures give you rules and procedures and policies, and they influence how people within the structure act, be it CSN, UNLV, Nevada State. And then a person exhibits agency through this arrow, the ability to act otherwise, the ability to influence reciprocally the structure. It's a relationship that's built on dependence, and it's a cycle. It should experience continuity over space and time. So it should be something that is reciprocal throughout time, throughout personnel changes and everything. Realistically, there's a big X on that arrow. Not all the time, but consistently. An unhealthy social system is when individuals don't feel like they have the ability to influence the structure. And so, okay, here's where you can take notes. So how do you embolden agency? How do you do it? So it's about power. It's about power dynamics and hierarchical power structures. And so in a teacher-student relationship, there is an evaluation, right? I give out letter grades. That is a clear power dynamic. I clearly have power over students. Now, power dynamics have clear things that define them, but they also have unclear things. So Starbucks, when you go, they have the coffee. You want the coffee. You have to give them money to get coffee. Like there's a power dynamic happening there. It's an informal one and it's not as clearly defined, but it exists. And so I look at clearly defined power dynamics, usually through an evaluation. So my boss evaluates me as observed on Tuesday. So that is a clear power dynamic. It is impossible for things to run exactly the same when the dean of the School of Education is there and when the dean is not there. It's just impossible. We all feel it. And so the way you embolden agency is you acknowledge it and you minimize it if you can, you counter it, and you cross these power dynamics with the intention of transforming the existing structure. And so what did I do the first minute class started? Hey, everyone, we have a visitor. We have a visitor. She's going to be here for a while. And then throughout the night, the dean participated. They were in small groups. They were doing the arts and crafts project we did. And it just becomes much more natural and inclusive. And so that is how you embolden agency, is you minimize power dynamics the best you can, or at least acknowledge them if you can't minimize. And you do it through 3 very, very practical ways consistently over time. And so number 1 is you provide students the opportunity for choice. Here's, everyone come up here, this is a grant. Everyone grab 2 pieces of paper, and there's colors, there's endless amounts of color, right? I don't care what colors, right? Fold your paper, make a name tag. Hamburger, hot dog style, I don't care. Like whatever you want. So it's hard to define, right? Because these choices are happening all the time. But if we provide opportunities over and over and over, that emboldens agency. Another is to exert influence. So discussion-based techniques, right? Is real quickly, could somebody please tell me their favorite animal?
A dolphin.
Dolphin. What was the other one? Dog. Why is your favorite animal a dolphin?
Because it's in the ocean, it gets to be free. It can roam, it's free, it's not contained, and I love the water.
It's amazing. So hypothetically, we've all been influenced in some way to rethink our perception of a dolphin and the way a dolphin lives. Why is a dog the best?
She best friend.
Best friend. Doesn't care what happened in the meeting, right? Go home, best friend. So you can put students in situations to where they are able to exert their influence confidently. And a lot of times, especially with middle schoolers, you can do it in that way, and you can sort of be, you can get students used to talking, right? And talking about what they feel is important to them. And then the last one is taking stances. So my wife and I fight about this all the time. Waffles are clearly superior to pancakes in every facet. So what happened is the humans perfected pancakes by creating a waffle. Like they were like, okay, it's neat, it's organized, but you can be messy with it. It's got a nice crunchy sauce. So we don't need to do pancakes anymore. Yeah, we still do. People still choose them over waffles. I don't understand it. Doesn't make any sense. Waffles are the perfect pancake. That doesn't even make the conversation. And so in jest, I took a stance, right? Waffles are better than pancakes. And it's in a way that you don't care, like I understand that a lot of you probably like pancakes better than waffles, and that's okay. But that's an example of emboldening agency in it. And so I might start a class and we do a snake around and we say, give me an opinion. Any opinion. And we snake around, and it's usually about Chick-fil-A. I don't know why everybody has that. Chick-fil-A or pineapple on pizza. Like that's all they want to talk about. But it's providing the students in a safe way to take a stance. There's no like, no, like what is your opinion? And then give us your opinion. And then we can have a little chat about it and move on. Any questions? Do we want to move? That's no, maybe. We could try it once. Someone challenged me recently to put a bridge in every PowerPoint presentation I give. Every single one. Because bridges are, in their opinion, a metaphor for connection and coming together. And so I encourage you to try it. It's really hard. Not to put the bridge in, because you could just put a bridge anywhere. But you get like hung up on what bridge to select. There's so many different kinds on different continents, in different regions, and it's like it's very wild. And so this particular bridge is selected on purpose today because we were gonna do an activity where this room really is bad for it, but maybe down this aisle where people are walking. And this is in Prague, and I've been on this bridge, and so I was like, oh, like let's pick that one, because people are on it and people are walking right now, and so let's try it. So what we're gonna do. So strongly disagree is over there in the back. I didn't pin these signs. Just had this like. So strongly disagree is in the back. We'll have this be strongly agree. Okay. Right, but we can change. But let's just imagine that this is strongly agree, that's strongly disagree, and this is a continuum, okay? So I'm gonna read something and you can stand like sort of close to which side you think. And if you strongly agree, you come over here. If you like kind of agree, so it's on the, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. We'll just do it a couple times. So we're gonna do it on this, in this aisle. Let me get my questions out.
We use these items too?
Sure, yeah.
Agree with strongly agree.
Front of the room strongly agree, back of the room strongly disagree. I like that. It's way better.
Get ready to roll.
This is super high stakes, by the way.
We can talk about British.
A lot of time went into that first. All right. Children should be required to help with household tasks as soon as they are able to. Anyone want to share?
Like why we should.
Why you're standing where you're standing?
I think it's good to get them started to work. Gotta teach them how to work.
All right,
Younger the better. Great. Why not?
all
I
right.
have an interesting point though. Somebody else said it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they do it.
Builds discipline,
What are you waiting for?
free labor.
It makes them independent for when they're older, they know how to do things, simple daily tasks on their own.
It makes them part of the family, family unit.
All right,
They understand the labor that goes into keeping a house.
love it. Playing a game is fun. I'm purposely not putting in my own opinion, by the way.
We're all looking to you though.
Playing a game is only fun when you win.
Oh.
There's always one person up here, no?
Oh, yeah.
Why are you staying where you're standing? Doesn't matter, where are you?
I open my phone, play a game.
Don't be that sole winner, rather than the sore loser, right?
Sure.
Nobody likes the coffee winner, right?
Sometimes it's more fun to lose because it means you got like more action, like if you're playing baseball and somebody keeps hitting it to the fence, you have to run a lot.
Good practice.
I'm a level, right? So like my son's playing youth football right now. And I'm like, bro, like it's okay that you're leaving youth football. There's nothing really major that comes from that. But like as you grow older or when you get into like people that get into college or the NFL, like yeah, you still have fun, but I think now there's a prize at the end of the tunnel. Like, you know, the Super Bowl or whatever that championship is really like attainable goal. So
Sure.
it just depends on kind of level. That's what I'm coming.
I like it. All right, attending a live performance is more enjoyable than watching it on TV.
Yeah.
Something
You're gonna go watch that one in person?
that would be enough.
Anyone want to share?
Yeah, because Formula One since a disaster on the.
What I heard a lot of was it depends on what we're talking about.
Yeah.
People behave differently when they wear different clothes.
Someone's got to be professional. Separate deck.
Anyone want to share?
To me, it depends on the person. To me, I still just say you're the same person. I don't care what I wear.
Sure.
But you look like someone.
Sorry.
not only with what you wear, but your environment, right?
Yeah.
That they go hand in hand, and your environment definitely is gonna, I guess, influence on how you're gonna behave around.
Okay.
Sometimes when I'm feeling bad, I dress up so that I feel better about yourself.
If the faculty member had dressed up and said, oh, you need.
The media spends too much attention on the personal lives of famous people.
Taylor Swift, are you kidding me? Talk about it all the time.
Oh, that's over here. It's confusing.
She fell asleep.
Yeah. All the way up there.
Over here.
This is-
Yeah. You strongly outline. Love it.
Because we don't want to know everything about what happened in the divorce between Christine and Kevin Costner. It's too much. It's too much.
Mind in that sense that when we talk about the celebrities, the youth generation takes it, that's the norm. That's kind of like, that's where they need to be, and puts them down, that they're not there. But having kids, I can speak to that. And then the other thing is, we lack, being of international background, we lack the news that is really happening in the world today. And we focus too much on what the celebrities are doing, which I don't care when there's a genocide happening in the 21st century. So it's an imbalance.
So I'll say real quick on that though, but as we all know, the media is only going to portray what gets them rated. So while we in this room can say, yeah, we strongly agree that the media spends too much time on it, the only reason they're doing it is because their ratings go up, skyrocket. You know, the NFL came out and was like, well, we actually pushed the Taylor Swift narrative basically to put her always on TV because they know that Taylor Swift has a bunch of fans and it's going to, you know, bring a lot of people to
They
the
don't watch
forefront. So,
football, but they watch it.
Right. So I agree completely that they spend too much time on it. I also know the media is about getting ratings.
It is better to be the leader of the group than to be a member of the group.
I'm taking charge.
Anyone want to share?
I don't want to be attacked, but.
What was the
I
name?
want to be careful. Yeah, it's better to be the leader than a member of the group.
Well, it's good. You gotta, we always say the little adage, you gotta serve before you leave. You gotta learn how to do the bottom stuff before you leave. So yeah, I kind of middle there. You start at the top of the chain.
I'm running the show. I like it. I'm driving the bus.
Go right down.
Okay, that's all I have. I have two more, but.
We're just warming up.
So,
All day.
so, all right, there's one example of emboldening agency in the classroom. So, you had to make choices, you exerted influence, you took a stance, and I was careful, I tried to be careful not to give my opinion in that scenario. Yes, there is a power dynamic, me being the reader and controller of the question, but I like to, y'all did it, you started to talk, it started to become a discussion, right? And less of a me calling on you, and that happens over time. And then multiply that by a 16-week or 15-week semester, and the community can become really tight. You know, something we can talk about later, or we can talk about if people are interested, is how to do this in an online platform. Because there's differences with in-person to asynchronous and asynchronous communities. in a synchronous community, I actually prefer an online synchronous community because I feel like I get to know my students even better through breakout rooms and through the Zoom platform. It is more exhausting. But then in an asynchronous format, that I'm really trying to do my best to make that experience better for students. A lot of it has to do with optional times where I'm sitting on Zoom. And I'm just making myself available a lot. And I tell them that I'm available a lot. And that seems to be doing the trick at the moment. Okay, so there's really 3 areas that you can focus on with emboldening agency. And what's cool is you can apply it based on content as well. If you're a math instructor or whatever your content area is, you can still focus on these areas. And so the first is identity development. There's a lot of identity activities you can do, a lot of things you can do with identity that helps sort of, they talk about developing a philosophy of teaching, right? So what are your beliefs? What are your motivations? What are your goals to do with this profession? You want to be a principal? Somebody said, I don't want to be a chancellor. Like, that's important to like sort of put all that out there when you're in a group that are going to be classroom teachers. You have some students that really want to just be teachers their whole career, which is awesome. But some students want to go get a master's degree right away. Some want to be the principal, counselors, school-based mental health. There's all kinds of pathways. And so number 1 is good to sort of flush that out. Number 2 is recognizing and engaging in structural opportunity. So this is one, right? This is me demonstrating my agency. I got this email for the Nevada Diversity Summit. Nobody told me to submit a presentation. Nobody was checking on me. One colleague even said, you don't have to do that, right? So you don't need it for your promotion and tenure package. And I was like, okay, that's just,
He just wanted to do it to get the money on the table today.
And they also said, wow, that's really far. That's gonna be a long drive for you. Like, oh, thanks. This was a great talk. So recognizing structural opportunities, right? Recognizing that it exists, helping your students, supporting your students, and pushing your students to say, my big one right now is I'm really trying to get students into research. Yeah. I'm really trying to get students to know the research process and get them going with knowing how to do it and knowing that you have to read a lot, and that's okay. And then engaging in structural opportunities. So not only am I trying to support my students in research, I'm trying to say, hey, here's this conference, or here's this opportunity, here's this fellowship, here's this scholarship, and they exist. So now it's perception plus action, right? So we know now we got to do something about it. And then finally, it's reevaluating and developing relationships. So one thing I really miss about K-12 teaching, 6th grade teaching in particular, is how well you get to know the kids by March. Like, you know them so well, it's like a fish tank by March. Everybody's just kind of like existing in this beautiful way. It's really hard in higher education to develop these student relationships quickly, because already it's week 4, then week 5, week 6, and then you got 2 weeks off for spring break or whatever, and then it's over. And so it's reevaluating and developing those relationships. I consider myself an extroverted introvert. So I am a person who likes my house, and I like to be alone, and I like my my core family. But I do enjoy these types of experiences as well. But I don't have a lot of friends, but I have very deep relationships. And that's because I've done over the years, I've moved a lot, that helps. But you lose and gain friends over the years, and it's important to keep the ones that, I don't have to talk to you about friendships, but it's important to at least acknowledge your relationships with people. And then it has to be power driven. Because the realities of hierarchical power dynamics because there's asymmetry in, you know, I can use you as an example.
Yeah, of course.
Your office, right? Like you can tell them as much as you know, like it has to be, if you stop, then it stops, right? Like you have to, the person in the power position, the teacher, educator, the professor, the dean, the chancellor, these are the people who have to initiate consistently over time and not take it personally when something doesn't work or if nobody shows up. This is an amazing turnout, by the way, for my session. I was like, if there's 2 or 3 people, you know, I need to adjust because that's sort of what I was predicting. So it's this journey, right, that we're on together, and the person who has power has to acknowledge that it exists. There's a 2004 like seminal article in Power Dynamics and Power Relationships that, and I'm gonna mess up the quote, but the quote is something like, "People in power don't want to acknowledge power. People without power are always aware that it exists. Constantly, always." Some of my students, like they like are nervous to ask the question or to come to my office hours, and I'm like, I'm so approachable, aren't I? You know, like, but maybe not. Maybe I have to examine, you know, what I'm doing that's sort of contributing to that. I like these quotes. These are just like, this is the second to last slide, by the way. I like these quotes because these first 2 are like, I use them in my dissertation to sort of mirror like 2 very different people saying something very similar 85 years later. So John Dewey has experience in education. It's this little like 100-page book. And it says it's easier to walk in the paths that have been beaten than it is after taking a new point of view to work out what is practically involved in the new point of view. I've always thought that was interesting. Like the easy path is, it's already been done. It's easier, right? It's already been done. And then I love this Jay-Z quote. I've used it so many times. No lie, just know I chose my own fate. I drove by the fork in the road and went straight. And so that to me is similar-ish in philosophy that Dewey was talking about in 1936. And then this one is sort of keeps me in check. A teacher's role is more than opening up the way, but at times having the courage to show the way. So I like that quote because sometimes I do have discussions with students that are currently teachers, and they're talking about it, and I do hear a lot of like problematic statements being made from time to time, and I have to step in, right? I have to say, wait, hold on, let's slow down. Like I have to, for as much agency that I want to embolden, I also I have a responsibility to prepare people with the knowledge to be successful at the job. I won't read all this. So this is my challenge now. My challenge in the work that I'm doing. I started a workshop last night. It was the first one on emotional resilience with new teachers. So we met, it's first, second, and third year teachers, and we're talking about emotional resilience and sort of creating this online space. I run into issues when people want numbers and data, how emboldening agency influences retention. How does agency get teachers to stay? And that seems to be the next phase of this work, is to figure out how I can show quantitatively that we're retaining more teachers. And so a lot of the work that I'm doing is following Nevada State graduates from the teacher education program into the classroom. So we have a database of like 800 emails, and it's called Nest, the program that we work with, that I work with, and it's trying to like span the professional learning continuum, because not a lot of people are doing that work. Because once people leave higher ed and go into the classroom, emails get lost, people move, it's difficult, and so that's sort of where we're at. But this is the last thing I'll say, I promise. The first 2 years in the classroom I taught pre-K, I had a 3-year-old classroom. And it was a very formative experience for me. From a classroom management, it's how I learned classroom management. It's how I learned how to manage a group of people. Because if you can manage 18 3-year-olds, you can do pretty much anything. And it has to be, somebody yesterday, just yesterday said, well, you need to stop saying safe space and start saying brave space. So I'm exploring that, but you have to create an environment for any age student to where a person can feel like they can be themselves. Because if they're not, they don't feel like they can, it's that the example is, like, who was the first president? The kid confidently, like, Abraham Lincoln. And you're like, and everybody like erupts in laughter and the kid's super embarrassed. Well, we have to make it so that a kid can do that and not feel the embarrassment that they, it's teachable, right? And we talk about it and you don't want to like put out that spark, that excitement that got them to stand up in the first place. That's it. Any questions, comments?
When you're talking about agency, and you're talking about the micro, working with learning and the activity of learning and expanding and staying in the field of teaching. How does the macro, when they're pushed from the outside, the external, and they need funding? I mean, literally, teachers don't think teaching only because of the lack of salary. How does that affect? How do you interject that as the external environment affecting the internal environment?
You're talking about like the school districts?
School district, anything.
Yeah, it's not easy. The 15 new teachers last night we're all considering leaving. It's a huge problem. As far as agency is concerned, like a lot of this is very grassroots for me. Trying to connect. It's very relationship driven. So trying to connect these new teachers with each other and with veteran teacher graduates. But as far as from a structural perspective is, I would say we need decision makers, and I want my students to be the ones who become principals and superintendents and people who are going to make policy decisions that affect 330,000 kids. I want those people to be
The end goal is to recruit.
Not just that, I teach people education here at CSN. Not just that, the other factor is the society, the community.
Yeah.
Where today's family structure and the needs of the children are so much more than just teaching them education, giving them that education in school. Teachers are becoming more than teachers, teaching a subject. They are becoming parents, they're becoming counselors, they're becoming caretakers for whatever they need, and it's exhausting. That whole just going in there and teaching your topic is not relevant anymore, and that's exhausting. And I know there are a lot of people who would do it regardless of the pay. Pay is not a motivator only for teachers, but it's just external, extrinsic things that are happening, your agencies. That's what needs to also change. And we need to be very cognizant of that before we move forward and ask a superintendent to make a change. I mean, you can very well make a change and bring some top-down guidance, but then if the community, that family, whatever is embracing around the school is not ready for it, it's not.
Yeah. I think, the main issue in teaching right now are recruitment and retention. And I lean heavily into retention because I have I have a hard time trying to convince somebody to become a teacher, you know, like, and because it's such a personal decision and it is such unique work. And so I've poured myself into, once people have decided to become teachers, trying to keep them in the profession. And yeah, pay consistently is like 8th, 9th, 10th on the list of motivators for teachers. More money is awesome, you know, but it's not the main reason people go into teaching. It's, yeah, we're.
Well, I was gonna ask what, you know, if you could give any advice to a first year teacher, what you would say, and I give that in, you know, my wife's a first year teacher this year. And she interviewed for jobs as a PE teacher, she had all these great things she wanted to do and to teach, and, oh, you'll be able to do all this, it's great, it's exciting. And then she shows up for her first day and gets her schedule, and she's like, I have 80 kids every period. This is an elementary school, like, she's trying to manage 80, it's 2.5 classes per period. And she's like, this is just absurd. I want to start my master's, I'm not gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, yeah, and so that, yeah, that's.
It's one. Give your contact.
That's the number one advice to all new teachers is supportive admin. Is align philosophically with your principal and AP, because that's the difference between being miserable and not, you know, on a daily basis. Unfortunately, it is very it's very power driven, right? The principal has the ability to make, you know, little changes on a daily basis that can influence whether or not people say. Like you're right. I mean, like that's, yeah, it's every teacher, 85%. We did a survey recently where we put it out to 3,000 teachers and we got like 1,800 responses and 85% are thinking about it.
Well, I think what you just said is not fair to teachers. It's not fair for them to be parents and counselors and all of these other things because their expertise is in education and teaching. So I do think that the community, families and everybody, we have a responsibility and we have fallen down on the job. It is not the teacher's responsibility to do all of those things. But my question would be, I wonder if you incorporate anything with the current teachers striking and been protesting in Clark County as an example of agency. I don't know, for your newer teachers.
Yeah, in my Tuesday night class, it's typically a topic of discussion every time.
Work action.
Okay, then, yeah.
It's a work action, can't say strike. That's it.
Work action, right.
And a lot of our conversations in class are, they just want facts. They want to know what's happening and why it's happening, because they don't always know the reasons behind it and whether or not they're even pro-union or not. You know, like they're still working through the like basics of their teaching philosophy, which is also why I don't want to be like super negative, but like why it's kind of troubling that they're all full-time teachers already is, you know, they haven't worked through their philosophy of teaching yet. They're still deciding what they believe about, you know, phonics and comprehension, let alone, you know, teaching, you know, all the subjects. And, you know, one of the teachers last night was there at school. It was 7:30 to 9:30 was our session. You know, she was there at 9:30 p.m. You know, and and so we're trying to sift through what's important to them. If they want to be involved in the work action, you know, I want them to get involved. And if they don't, then they're not. Did I see another hand? Yep.
I'll just say, I mean, I have like some feelings and thoughts about like, you know, teachers and what they're being asked to do. I think some of it, like, it represents also just the changing face of work for everyone. I mean, so many people are being asked to take on like new roles and do things that they never did before. That's not being unsympathetic to teachers. I mean, I think they have it like the worst, you know, but I just want to bring it back to your framework for a moment. I think it's embolden agency. Like, it's really easy to remember. It's it's simple, but yet it feels like it has a lot of possibility in what it can do. Thinking, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but your comment was like, that like, maybe they're learning about these things, like, yeah, they're practicing agency in the classes, they can take agency then when they become teachers, and maybe they'll decide they're pro-union and they're gonna leave the word action. Or whatever, they know how to take a stand, right? So you've given them this like, I don't want to say soft failure space, but like they can practice that a lot. And I think like I teach a lot of first year students. It's a really simple framework that I can probably apply in every class for the rest of my life is embolden agency. So I'm just going to bring it back to that because I feel like as an educator, not necessarily working in teacher education, not necessarily someone who people are going to listen to a whole lot around what's happening with teachers right now, although I'm a parent of CCSD students. So like I do have, some agency there, but I just think what you presented is really, it's easy to take away and implement in the class.
I appreciate that. The couple friends I do, they often say, this applies to my work, at MGM and ones at Hyatt and, like keeping people, they'll train somebody for years and years and then the person leaves, right? And then it's like, so retention is just, retention is retention, like keeping people and keeping good people. And so again, like I come from an education background, so I do tend to use just examples from classrooms, but I hope you do apply it to your own work. Yeah.
I have a question. When you said some advice that you give your first year teachers is to align philosophically with whoever their superior. What advice would you give them if they know and that their superior's philosophy is not a great one?
Yeah, happens all the time.
Yeah.
So one really difficult challenge in the work is all of these, pre-service teachers are long-term subs at a school. And they feel because schools need teachers so badly, they try to hang on and hire them. But if they're not in a situation they want to be in, they feel obligated to stay at that school because of, they don't want confrontation or they don't know how to leave. A lot of times it's the school that they live right by and they want that commute. And so the advice is leave. Go to another school because there's so many. I try to, when they're looking for a job, the teachers are the ones who can have agency in where they work, what grade level they want, because the need is that's there. So leave, or wait out the principal. But if they're that miserable, then but it's so complex because I can say it all I want 8 at night on our campus, but then they have to just offer my support. Thanks, everyone.